Hey, Yankee. Got a name? Leon.
Few games are as universally beloved or as remarkably timeless as Resident Evil 4. It's the Terminator 2 of gaming. How do you top that? I don't know, and seemingly neither does Capcom, because Resident Evil 4 Remake is far from the jaw-dropping reimagining we all hoped for. It's fine, overly dour, at times monotonous, and other times feeling even more like an action game than the original, but it's perfectly serviceable. Except the problem is, serviceable and Resident Evil 4 should not live within 100 yards of each other. This feels less like a warranted remake and more of an encore victory lap of the last two Resident Evil remakes. Except, even by contrast to those that came before, Resident Evil 4 Remake is oddly lacking in the enthusiasm that the original is known for. The Evil Dead-esque, brooding yet comedic horror is all but gone, and in its place is a self-serious plot so lacking in someone to care about that I don't know if I should blame the acting or the direction, because the writing is perfectly competent. What's stranger still is, whenever Resident Evil 4 Remake isn't drawing from the past, it's desperately chasing Shinji Mikami's future. The new stealth mechanics, a new The Evil Within style crossbow, and a new aiming system in lieu of the laser sight aiming of the original game, it's all uncomfortably reminding me of the Callisto Protocol trying to one-up ideas from Dead Space's sequels. Other returning mechanics like crafting and barring windows work perfectly fine. As for the new parrying and dodge moves, they are glorified quick-time events, which is hilarious given how it was advertised that the game would lack any quick-time events, unlike the excessive number in the original game. The levels themselves vary from gorgeous to cluttered messes of over-detailing. I understand the incentive to go above and beyond the humble limits of the original GameCube release, but if I'm questioning if something is interactive or not at a distance, you've gone a step too far. The solution? Slap yellow onto important things like it's an Uncharted game. It works, but it also leaves me wondering why so much visual noise was necessary. The original's barrels and crates are here, but many of them are non-interactive background material, while the only ones worth engaging with have a literal X marks the spot of yellow on them. Yet, what remains most profound is the sheer lack of fun for significant portions of the game. The first half feels so divorced from the later sections in tone that it's like you're earning the right to enjoy yourself, especially with regard to the narrative. I don't think I've ever seen a game misunderstand the tone of its source material harder than this. Despite all the infected that you'll be fighting, what's truly caught between life and death are the visuals, particularly the lighting. With no explicit loading screens, areas transition seamlessly, except when they don't, and they have a jarring shift in the preset colour range. Sometimes an area is so gorgeously lit that it's some of the best environmental art in the series, only for another area to feel unfinished. Some level layouts are intuitive, while others left me infuriated as I tried to track down the last step in a side quest. Nothing's ever quite ideally balanced on any front. Several immediately recognisable elements are apparent, but sometimes they've been tweaked for no other reason than seemingly to toy with our expectations. What narrative changes are made can range from subtle to eyebrow-raising, but never consistently to the game's benefit. The most infuriatingly inconsistent part, though, is the game's aiming. The aiming is an absolute chore on a controller. Having just come off from multiple horror games on a gamepad, I could not have been more ready to dive in. I even had the benefit of an elite controller with the underside paddles for comfort. I spent over 5 hours constantly adjusting those aim sensitivity and acceleration settings, trying to find a happy medium where both your standard weapons and the precise weapons function optimally. It didn't have to be this way. Why do I say that? Well, for one, your binoculars handle just fine. More damning is my experience when playing the PC demo. On a mouse and keyboard, even with some of the strangest keyboard bindings imaginable, it handles like a dream by comparison. There's simply no good reason for aiming this cumbersome on a controller in an action-flavoured Resident Evil game in this modern day. On that same note, as far as performance is considered, PC may also be the optimal route. I set my Series S to performance mode to get the highest frame rate possible, and some textures look like they come straight from 2005. While there is a quality mode, this is a game where reaction windows are vital, so you might just have to take the hit if you don't have top-of-the-line hardware. What's really frustrating is how you can see a brilliant new version of Resident Evil 4 nestled between all of these thorny aspects. It's caught between all these changes that vary from interesting to wildly unnecessary. There are set pieces that have been wonderfully updated, including some classic foes. It's not all to waste, but the jumping quality takes place in the later hours of the game, and you really have to work to get there. What I am pleased to report is that the attache case remains, with various alternate case modifiers for unique perks. There's an automated sorting function for those not interested in fiddling with it, but it truly remains as satisfying as ever to organise. Some old familiar favourites like the sniper rifle and the shotgun remain absolutely devastating all these years later, even if the pistol's new sound effect is disappointingly muted until it's been upgraded. And that's what it feels like to play Resident Evil 4 Remake. It starts off dull, uninteresting, and takes a considerable amount of investment to get the most out of it. It's functional, and you'll get somewhere interesting eventually, but was it worth all of Capcom's money being viscerally thrown around? Did, in my entire playthrough, any moment truly justify a top-to-bottom remake of one of the greatest games of all time? No, not really. Resident Evil 4 Remake exists, and it will sell well based on its name alone. I'm sure there will be some who prefer it for being more modern and moody, but does every fan need to run out and get this right away? Well, only if you're the sort of Resident Evil devotee who picks up every single entry. Where Resident Evil 4 is timeless, Resident Evil 4 Remake is profoundly a product of its time. And that is the end of this review. Thank you for watching as always, and it is much appreciated. If you enjoyed this video and want more, go on down below, hit the like and subscribe buttons, and give the bell a ding so you're notified whenever we've got new stuff for you to watch. I've been Chris, you've been gorgeous, and I'll see you on the next one. Until then, cheers my dears.